Hey guys, I just wanted to show you, I just got my January Kit of the Month from Unity Stamp Set, and you get this little paper here that gives you kind of an idea of everything that's in there. This is not actual size. Now, one of the reasons I love Unity, now I'm not on a design team or anything, a fan, I guess you would call me, but I don't know if you can see these. This is I got a free little gift, which I love the little gifts that she sends. They're always so much fun. So this is a nice bag that I can put in one of my journals. I can stamp on it, all kinds of stuff, and a nice tag that I can put in one of my journals. Hey, it's free. What are you going to do? So, like, I want you to look at, well, this one's popping out, so it wants to be seen. Now, this is this little rabbit right here. But look at the size of that sucker, okay? I do a lot of journals. I love these sizes. But they will still go on a card and be absolutely perfect. So that'll fold in half. That's about half right there. So it'd be absolutely perfect on a card as well. So they're not so big that you can't use them on cards. I've chosen a 6x6 pad. I don't do a lot of cards. Cards are like, I don't know. They're fun, but they're not what I really like to do. So I'm challenging myself to try and do this and see how it works. I might make it a series. I'm not sure. But I'll probably will use the Unity stamp sets. I don't go out and buy a bunch of stamps to make cards with, so I'm going to use my Unity stamp set, and I might do journal pages sometimes instead of cards. I don't know, but I've chosen, this is one of my newer ones, and it's not normally what I choose to buy, but I just had to have it, and I haven't really used a whole lot in it, so I'm using this, and then I picked out some papers to make my cards, and I've got my cards cut out. So I hope you will join me, and I'm gonna gather all my stuff up and show you the way that I do it that makes it a lot easier for me. A little bit of work, more work on the front side, but then for time and time again going back to the pack, it's very useful. So I'll be back in just a second. Hey, all right. Well, now this whole series is about like minimal supplies, and I'm going to talk about everything you can do, or the things that I can think of that you can do without having like die cutting machines or fancy doodads and a lot of ephemera pieces. You got a stamp set, you got a 6x6 pad, and you got some cardstock. So I have done Copic coloring on these two, and I did just smushing ink on my mat with a blender pen on this one, and then this is just colored pencils. So and what I did was I picked the image, and then I picked what paper I thought I'd like behind that image, and then I colored the image with my designer paper in mind. Okay, and so that's going to give you the biggest way of being able to match and utilize your stash. Is, you know, not to color them first. Now a lot of people, and I have done it as well, is sometimes I take, if I'm just in the mood to color, I'll take a bunch of things, color them, and have them on the ready, and then I just have to match it. But this way I've kind of matched my card color and my you know, my cardstock and my pattern paper. So you know, I've got a little bit of this kind of ties both of them together. This one I've got yellow flowers, orange flowers, pink flowers, red flower, you know, so I'm kind of covered there with that. And this color kind of really blends into the pinks, and I've left a little pink in him. And so, you know, that will make it where just making simple cards, they're going to look really pretty because they are fashioned together. So just something to think about while you're doing this kind of thing. Now I happen to have some cording that has all of these colors in it. Now it doesn't have the blues and greens, so I probably won't use it on this card, but it's got all of these three, so I can, if I want, use that. If you have pieces of ribbon or white twine or no twine at all, you don't have to use it. Something like this, and now we're just going to, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to assemble the cards, and I'll be back in a second and I'll show you how I came up with all the stuff I came up with. Oh, you couldn't see everything. Silly me. So there's my my gal and my little guy with his roses on his head. So sorry, I thought I had that all in focus there. Okay. All right, but I'll be back in a second. I'm going to go ahead and put these guys together, and then I'll show you what I came up with. Okay, so I broke this down now into the 4 different cards, and I've got everything kind of set up. So now the first thing I want to show you is, okay, so I cut 4 1/4 and 5 1/2, so this is 4 by 5 1/4. And that gives you a nice little border around the edge of the card. Oh no, I'm sorry, this one I only took an 1/8, so instead of 4 1/4, it's 4 1/8, and 5 1/2, it's 5 3/8. So I just took an 1/8 off, so I got just a really thin little border. And then I'm going to have this guy in the center, but I wanted to take some pink, this Distress ink. The pink spun sugar is what I used along with worn lipstick. And to get, I just turned it over, did the matte, and this is the one that I used, the blender pen. Okay. If you want to see how I did this, just let me know, and I'll come back and do that. I just was putting the cards together with minimal product. So I just, on copy paper, cut myself a little mask. And I'm going to put that over that. Now, I'm taking this distressed ink. Any kind of dye ink will work the same way, okay? So you just want to test it. So what I did is I tested it on a little strip of paper. And I wanted to know, do I want to put it all around the edge of the card, this white piece, or do I want it to come from behind the bunny and still leave this white edge as a pretty part of the card? And I kind of like that. Or you can see what it would be like around the edge of the card. I kind of like having it come out from the bunny. That's why I did this little mask. Now, if you don't have these, don't go out and buy them. You can use this kind of sponge. Just about every woman knows what this is. It's a makeup sponge, but excuse me, didn't have a cough until I turned the button. Of course. Okay, so I am going to use my finger dauber, but again, you know, you don't have to go out and buy anything. This is all about using your stash. And I'm just going to start from on the mask and go off of the mask. Now remember, this spun sugar is not a real dark color. And I don't want it to go like really, whoops, really far off of the rabbit. Just a little bit. I just want him to have her. I guess this would be a her. She's got flowers all over her little front end there. Little top of her head. It looks like, to me, that this little rabbit stuck his or her head in some bushes to eat, and got some roses on the top of its head when it lifted its head. And it was a fun surprise. That's what I think anyway. I don't know for sure. Anyway, so we're getting this. I'm sorry, this is about as exciting as I have got to learn how to do all that fast forwarding like everybody does. YouTube does not offer it. And I do all of my videos, I do them all, create them all on YouTube. So I do have one that my husband bought me, but I don't know how to use it real well yet. And YouTube Creator is just so easy. So anyway, let's see, did I get everything pretty well here? I think so. Okay. So I think that looks pretty darn cute. Alright, and then the other thing that we're going to do is take some washi tape. If you don't have washi tape, you can take painter's tape, you can take paper tape, whatever. And I'm just getting myself about 2 or 3 thicknesses of my washi tape. Alright, and then I'm going to make sure I'm on screen here. This has Everything's Coming Up Roses. Love that, but there's a star, a line of stars in between. Does not go with my card. And I also want to split up the Everything's Coming Up Roses. Get that off of there. So I'm using, this is the age-old way of masking a stamp. And I'm going to ink it up, and first I'm going to make sure, get rid of this little thing, I'm going to make sure that see, I've got to get the whole word. This is a very juicy, this is a brand new pad, so it's very juicy. And let me just, yes. See, now I'm being very brave. I'm going to do this right on my card. Okay. So I'm being very brave. And it's making me very nervous. But you know what? It's paper. And I got another piece of this. So I am going to, I want to make sure I'm leaving it on. I'm going to stand up. I want to make sure I've got this as straight as possible because I don't want to be. And I want to stamp right there. I'm not pushing really hard because again this was very juicy. Yes. So there's that. And now I'm going to clean this really, really well. Because we don't want, I don't know if I'm cleaning my stamp with my stamp scrubber. Making sure that there is nothing left on this puppy. Okay, so there, sorry, I moved you. Okay. And now I'm going to use my mask again. Use my mask again, and I'm going to mask off the top part now. So now you get why we're doing 3 and 4 thicknesses, or 2 and 3 thicknesses, is because I don't want the ink to go through. Oops. I don't want the ink to go through by mistake. Alright. I see a little spot here. I don't push that hard, so, okay, and again, I'm going to stand up, figure out where I want this, and then I'm going to move my card just to make sure. Again, I'm not pushing hard because this is very juicy. Okay, I didn't get all of the very tops, so later on I will just take a very fine little black pen and finish that off. But we're going to move on for sake of time here. Oh, let me make sure. Now, one thing when you're doing with that, it's very messy. So make sure that you got your fingers nice and clean. Nothing wet on there. I don't know how many times I've ruined something because I did that. Okay, and then we're just going to wet glue, ATG, whatever it is that you have will work just fine. You want to line this up. Now remember, this does not have as big a border, so you're going to get one side, the top and both sides done, and then kind of lightly, loosely drop it. Okay, and it's just a little too. So now let's get the top and bottom one side. Top and bottom one side. I have not done this in so long. It's good for me to get this going again. Okay, I think that's good. There we go. Alrighty. And then I've got my little fella right there. A little cutie pie. That is a cutie pie. Now I am going to use, you can use, these are Stampin' Up! Stamping Dimensionals is what they call them. They're also foam squares. There's also fun foam that you can just glue on. That kind of thing. So whatever works for you. I used to be a demonstrator years ago, and I have so many of these, and I'm trying to get them used up. Because, you know, as a demonstrator, you end up buying all this kind of stuff for classes and things. So I like the fun foam, and to get a sheet of it, especially if you use your coupon, because it's not very expensive to begin with, but to get a sheet of the fun foam and then just glue it on. Jennifer McGuire, I believe, started that. I'm not 100% on that, but she does it very often, and I've heard other people on YouTube give her the accolades for that. So I am too. Push these down. Alright, and then this is going to finish card number 1. So you saw masking where we masked the stamp, and you saw masking where we masked the image that was stamped. Okay, and that comes up with a really cute card. And there we go. Number 1 down. Now we're going to move on, get all of this out of my way, to number 2. Now this one, I have cut, you still have your 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and then this I've cut to 3 5/8 by 4. That's this piece. And this is 3 by 3 3/8. Alright. I had first told you guys that I had this. Well, silly me, when I made all of these, I was not going to make this part this close, and by the time I realized what I was doing, it was like, oh, no way. So if I would have tried to get this thickness stuff through here, I would have been popping most of these holes out the edge. So I got some thread and did the zigzags, and then I did this up here, and I just used a little glue dot. You can cut them in half. If you don't have a glue dot, you can use a little glue and glue it down. This was done with pencil, and then I'm just putting this on here, and then I'm going to stamp Happy Everything, which is what this is. Okay, let me put this back up here. Sorry, excuse me. Got everything on here. I'm also going to, let's see, was this the one I was going to do this with? No. No. So, first I'm going to stamp before I glue down. I kind of like to make sure that get this lined up here. I pick one of the words, like this is happy is long and spread out, and then everything. And everything, I have this stamp that has the lines on it, the grids on it, and I line up the very top of this with the grid. So that's how you can use those grids on your stamps. Since this VersaFine is so juicy, I'm just going to use a little Memento, but any black ink on these, you know, for this kind of thing is going to work just fine for you. Dye ink is, well, let's see, I've got this here. I'm going to stand up, and I'm going to kind of leave my stuff, just get an idea where I want this. And then I'm going to lay it down. Okay, and I'm not going to push real hard, but I'm going to rock it top and bottom and side to side just a little bit. And then just kind of finger press it. There we go. You want to leave the stamp on there long enough that it actually has time to absorb the ink off of it. Especially the better the cardstock, the higher quality, the thicker the cardstock, the more you want it to have time to just soak up. Okay, so now I'm going to glue these two down. And this will be the end of this card. And this whole series is about using the stash. We got to use our stash up. And, you know, those of us, I got a lot of stuff. I got a lot of equipment. I've got a lot of tools. But not everybody does. And, you know, I was looking sometimes at these, when you're wanting to use your stash. Now, all I did here is I started with a knot at the end of my thread, and I did my zigzag, and then I cut off a little tidbit, and there's a piece of tape going across of it, just on the end. I didn't try and knot it up or anything like that. And then this is just a knot, a bow on some stickiness. Okay, so that's that. And I'm going to just run this right along here, get this glued down, center this up, and there we go. Super cute, super cute. Okay. And I will put pictures of these at the end of this. Okay, so now this one, I have some brown ink that I'm going to use because I did my bird. Now, if you have a brown pen but you don't have brown ink, you can take the brush part of your pen and you can brush the ink onto your stamps. So if all you can afford is to buy markers, you can use your markers on your pen, on your stamps. Now some work better than others. The distress markers, distress ink is not like the best thing to use for stamps. However, you can put the distress ink from your marker as well as from the ink pads. The markers will work as well. But if you have like Tombow markers, you can do this. You can scratch that. So anyway, just letting you know that. So I'm going to get my stamp on here. I'm going to ink it, the bottom of it up. Not really worried about the top because I have fussy cut out what I inked up here. And I'm trying to get his little legs. Not pushing too hard, just making sure I've got it rocked. And there we go. So then I'm going to line him up. And there we go. I cut off his little feet, but I'll glue down his little legs. So that'll be that. And then I'm also going to put my stamp right here with the brown. So let me just move this over and do this. Ink this up. I actually prefer to do it this way. Alright. And I'm going to put this, I gotta get up so I can see what I'm doing. Put this right about here. A little bit of rocking motion. Let it really absorb. Oh, that is such a pretty font. Okay. So I've got that and that. Then in the dollar spot, or whatever you want to call it at, this is Michael's, in the little bins. They have these little metal embellishments. Now I have only used one of these, and I don't know how long I've had these. And, you know, super inexpensive, yada yada yada. Anyway, so I thought, since this is go where your heart feels the most alive, I'm kind of doing bird's wings and heart, kind of putting those together. Get this off of here. Twist it one more time. There we go. Okay, and I'm also going to utilize my cord. I'll pull this off, and I want to get enough to do 2 or 3 rounds. I'm not gonna cut it off just yet. I'm gonna also glue this little puppy down. These are not that expensive. If you have one, you'll know what I'm talking about. It allows you a lot of control. If you don't have one, you may want to get one. It just gives you a little bit more control where the glue goes, and you're putting less onto your project than you would normally put on. Alright, and I'm just going to take this and I'm going to try and get it down in the right spot first time so I don't get glue everywhere. Okay, so there's that. Then we're going to start back here, and I don't know how everybody else does it, but I usually just take a piece of tape and I start. There we go. So I'm going to three or four. Let's just do three. There we go. I think that's good. And we'll play around with them once I get it taped up, but this way we'll get a little cut here. Another little piece of tape. And tape this sucker down. You want it snug, but you don't want it pulling the paper away. Okay. And this is a, ow, poke myself. There we go. This is that, there we go. Ooh, fingers are dirty. Okay. So now I'm going to take another little piece and I'm going to slide it up underneath here. See, this is also something that's kind of hiding the fact that the legs are, you know, so I'm kind of utilizing it for two different purposes. And I can kind of play around with the placement. Okay, but I'm going to take a little bit of this. Let's see, I'll cut, I don't know how much I'm going to do. And I want this in there. And let's see what we're going to do here. Okay. Let's see. Start with big loops, and then you can always make them smaller if we want to put a bow in here, or if we just want to leave it as a tie. With the having the knot in there, you never, yeah, I think we're just going to knot this one. Oops, give me this. Just going to knot it and have it as little, okay. Now this can still be kind of slid up and down on the card. There we go. And these can be, okay. And once you kind of get it the way you want it, in order to make sure it's going to stay that way, I also will take another piece of tape and just put right on the ends on both sides so that I know that it's going to remain right where I want it to remain at. For the most part, it's going to be pretty good. Okay, and then that's going to go on your card, and how cute is that going to be? Okay, let me just flip this over. Again, wet glue, your ATG, your little you know, whatever you choose as your, I do ATG because I do a lot of paper to paper. If you do a lot of paper to paper, there we go. Then the ATG is very, very good. Alright, there's that card, and we've got one more. Let's see if we can get through this one. Now, I have already stamped, and I did pick out of my stash a few. I don't have a lot of sequins. Again, I don't do a lot of cards. I just don't do a whole lot of cards. I'm going to glue this down. onto this little piece here. Center it up. Whoops, not quite. There we go. There's that. And see, I think I'm going to stick that little flower right there. And then here I have all these little pieces. This one I don't like. The rest of these I think will be cute on there. I cut, now this is a top loading if I remember correctly. Yes, this is a top loading. So this is 4 1/4 and this is 5 1/2 with the top loading. Alright. And what I did here, let's see, what did I put that up? It's quick and easy to tell you. So this is 3 1/2 by 4 7/8. And I believe this is the same. 4 7/8 by 3 1/2. So I cut 2 the same, okay? And I am matching one up on the top and one down here like this, so that you're going to get the pattern paper, but you're also going to get this. And then I'm going to take strips and put down. So let's go ahead and put this down. Oops. Anytime you get it off the edge, you just want to roll it back on itself onto the back side. I do it that way too, yeah. Alright. So now we're going to line this up. Make sure you've got the opening. Going to line this up. A nice edge. Okay, there we go. We're going to put these down. There we go. If you kind of start off since if you're doing the ATG and you're doing little strips like this, if you start off of the strip onto the mat and then start rolling, it'll do alright. Now if you have strip that's hanging over, do the best you can to push it around behind on top of itself. And if not, if you don't get it all that way, it will. Now we're just kind of splitting the difference. Splitting the difference between the two. I'm got some still hanging that I missed. So I'm pulling it around the back end here. Okay, splitting the difference. And then if whatever else, you can just rub right off. Okay, so if you want to start off of the mat and pull onto your piece of paper, and then you can pull your finger and don't worry that it's too long. We're just going to cut it off because I wanted those to go from end to end on the paper. Make sure I'm up here. And we're going to split the difference here. Get that pushed back best I can, because it'll rub off if I don't. There we go. Split the difference right about there. Okay, let me get these snipped off. Just flip it around to the back. There we go. Throw that away. And then, now this was one that I Copic colored, but you know, you can, if you've got pencils, I did write the colors down. E21, E23, and E25 was the hair. G24 and YG61 was the coat. Y15 and Y35 was the hat. B21 and C1 was the scarf. And 50, 51, and 29 is the face, with a little R20 on the lips. That's kind of my go-to for the face. Okay, and then we're going to match this with the same kind of amount of the blue showing right like that. And then I'm going to take a little bit of glue and I'm going to glue this down. I'm going to have my little flower right there. There we go. Push it up just a little bit off of the word. And I'm going to put a few of these little things kind of right where we've got, wherever you feel like. So I've got a little flower to go right there. There. And I like the different sizes. Let's put this one on. Whoops. There. There. And let's do one down here. Alright, and then we're going to glue this. Didn't move that around too much. There we go. Going to go ahead and glue this. And we've got our 4 cards, which is probably more cards than I've made than in I don't know how long. Let's see. I want kind of And actually I'm going to pick this back up and I'm going to put some dimensional. I'm going to put a dimensional because it's coming off of so many different pieces. Put a little dimensional here, and then I'll re-glue, and I'll re-glue my little flower because it came off. Okay. Now let me get my little flower back on here. And we have finished our cards. So I hope, see, I'm going to pull out just a little bit. Oops, wrong way. I hope that you guys have enjoyed watching me suffer doing these cards. I did enjoy them. And minimal product, just using some really pretty paper and your stamps. And you know, if you don't have a little thing like this, you just got some rope, just tie a couple ropes around. Do a little stitching on your card. That's hand stitching. I didn't do anything. I just took a pokey tool and stuck some holes in there. Masking your stamps, masking your stamped images, fussy cutting them out and making them look better. You can do it. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.